I've been having some fucking technical difficulties, taking me a second to get started here. So if you're waiting, or if you're here for that, or if you saw anything, I don't know what it did on your end for you. So, but anyway, fucking whatever. I'm gonna try to process this later. So today, we are gonna see how much more of the trial exhibits we can get through from the case regarding Google. It's the United States versus Google. They're getting sued. I think it's related to like the U.S. Department of Justice situation, and it's under. There's two monopoly cases against Google right now. So there's a search monopoly. It was originally filed 2020. It is under Judge Mehta's court, Mehta's court. There is also another case that we're not covering today, but just so you know, for the distinguishment, two cases. Um, there's another case for them regarding a monopoly with their ad technology on the ad side, and that monopoly case was originally filed, I believe, in 2023, and I think, and that's happening under Judge Brinkema's case, Brinkema. So yeah, fucking that's a thing. And yeah, so today, and what we're currently doing is covering as much as we can with the trial exhibits as it relates to Judge Mehta's case, Mehta, and that's as it relates to the search monopoly, particularly um, in terms of Google. So there's two monopoly cases. Today we are on the search monopoly. We are going through the trial exhibits. Previously, we've gone through basically all of the other publicly made available documentation that I'm interested in going through, except for the remedy situation. And I'm going to cover that after the trial exhibit. I can't decide if I'm going to wait, like, because there's some final decisions that are supposed to be coming out regarding that, and like an appeal situation that might happen too with this that I also will cover when it happens, if it does. I'm assuming it will. Um, but yeah, so fucking all of that will get covered if or when it happens. Too. But yeah, my main point though, besides wrapping it all up, I will then be moving on for the most part with my shifting my main focus to the other Monopoly case after this. So yeah, alrighty, I'm gonna roll my intro, and then we're just gonna get right on into it. We're gonna get started with the trial exhibits. So yeah, here we go. Hi, my name is Alexis, also known as Lexi or Deaf Child. I was born deaf, hard of hearing. I began doing business as Deaf Child 2013, marketing 2011, sales 2009. I've earned 50 plus certifications in marketing and sales. My Bachelor of Science from Loyola University, New Orleans, with a music industry studies major and a business administration minor. Deafness runs in my family genetically. Speech is not fully accessible to me. Anyway, I'm here to bitch about whatever the fuck is on my mind. So here we go. Visit my site at noladeafchild.com. Okay, so where we last left off, we had previously covered some of the trial materials. I mean, not the trial materials. Well, we did cover trial materials already. We did cover all of that. But I meant to say the trial exhibits. We had previously covered the first 8 of these. So we last covered the Google presentation, Amazon app usage and impact. So we'd already covered that. We covered an internal email that relates to trying to, basically, in my opinion, relates to their, oh, you know what? I think CY stands for code yellow here, and I was thinking CY could be like current year, but I think it's code yellow. Oh my god, last live stream I was like, I don't know what CY stands for. I feel so silly now. It's totally probably stands for code yellow, or am I wrong? I think it does. Does it? Does it? Does it? Does it? It stands for code yellow, right? Okay, fuck. Bruh. Anyway, so that we went over what I believe could be their objective key results and goals from their 2019 commercial. We went over their deep dive on Samsung, the Samsung Mobile Revenue Share Agreement. We went over the Apple Amendment to the Information Services, as well as their Joint Cooperation Agreement. And we went over their latency update slide deck. So that's what we've covered so far. Um, yeah, now we are moving on. So next up, we are covering evidence exhibit number here. Or fuck, I'm not using the right words. Look, I'm not an attorney. Who gives a shit? You know what the fuck I mean? Okay, so next we're covering exhibit PSX00A1. This is the chat between Patrick Chang of Samsung and Antonio Key of Samsung and and others from October 23, 2020, and this is posted, made available October 6, 2023. So yeah, fucking here we've got an email chain. It looks like, okay, so last time I had started reading and it looks like I should have read from the bottom up because of the timestamps from that other time, but this time it does look like the timestamps are from the top down. So if I'm making sense, because this other fucking email was annoyed. I read it out of order, man. I was like, why? God damn it. Okay, so here we have Antonio Key, someone who's redacted, Brandon Hoffman, and other people who are redacted, all from Samsung, as far as I can tell, um, as well as Patrick Chang on this email. And yeah, fucking Patrick Chang said at October 23rd, 2020 at 6:15:09 p.m. No worries, we will have all teams running on it. WJL is very involved. Brandon Hoffman at 6:21 p.m. I figured this was still progressing nicely. I'm sure it'll cross the finish line not before long and is something that can and will be highlighted as a win and the right types of activities when mentioned at a workshop. Google taking on the Department of Justice now maybe will have them less aggressive in strict interpretations of contracts. So maybe that helps in terms of timing to push branch. I'm curious. Thread broadcast? No worries, we have all teams running on it. WJL is very involved. I don't think Samsung had the right interpretation of what's going to happen with the Department of Justice here. Maybe that's just me. Okay, so then Patrick Chang said at 6:26 p.m. Actually, the complete opposite. Google just did a fuck you to Samsung. After the Department of Justice filings, they submitted a new red line that went backwards in all negotiations with Samsung and was even more aggressive in being restrictive. Patrick Chang said at 6:26, oh, they weren't saying that the Department of Justice would have less aggressive, strict interpretation of contracts. They were saying Google would. Duh. Okay, I processed that wrong. Um, duh. Duh. Okay. Huh. Uh-huh. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, Patrick Chang said at 6:26 p.m. they basically don't feel the Department of Justice has a real case. Brandon Hoffman at 6:34 p.m. said, oh wow, well damn, still able to be managed or making it tougher than now to get it through. Interesting, interesting. Okay. And so this is relevant because I believe Samsung previously in the live stream where we went over Let me pull it up here. Apologize. In a previous live stream where we went over the plaintiff presentation, I believe. I think that is the one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that one explains a bit further. I don't know why my fucking captioner is being like this to me, but okay. That one explains a bit further some of the things that was happening. Let me scroll up where it had paused at. Okay, I'm not entirely sure where it paused at, but I scrolled through a bit. If anyone needs to read through there, apologize. Well, alrighty, we'll just keep going. Life is hard. Backing anyway. So if the in the plaintiff presentation previously that we covered, you can kind of see a little bit better how it's all connected. But basically, mobile carriers are locked into these agreements where they are basically forced to have Google on their phones, or they won't be able to, or their phones won't be able to. It'll be a useless brick because of how they got locked into the agreements with Android being their provider too, and with how Google basically makes it so like anything that runs on our phone has to be done through Google and other shit that I don't really feel like I'm properly explaining. But yeah, so fucking basically through contracts they're locked in real tight. So yeah, fucking then next up here, next evidence, we've got item number PSX000952. This is a Samsung document relating to questions from headquarters between 2016 and 2020 from October 2020. And this was made available October 6, 2023. Check this one out. So, yeah, here, this looks like it says questions from headquarters. Our goal will be to provide headquarters with answers as promptly and as comprehensively as we can. Directory of People. Strategy, we've got VP Juan Kim. Then they've got, I'm so sorry, I don't think I'm going to say this name right. I think it might be Yuntak Lim, as well as Jungkan Kong. I am so sorry. Then it says S Finder, we've got VP Sally Hai Yusun Jiang, Naomi Han, Hyeonjin Jo, Jungmin Park, Jihae Lee, Wang Kyu Kim, Woongi Park, Jae Lee, Daesung Wang, Sanai Park, Sungyeon Kyung. I apologize. I probably said all that very wrong. Sorry, guys. Anyway, so yeah. And then from India, we also have SVP Deepesh Shah, Ritesh Jain, product leader. We've got contract management, Jaehoon Song. We've got others, Yang Son, Francis Ho, VP Haisun, VP SH Choi. And then over 2016 and 2017, it says many meetings between various executives um, from E.S. Chang to San from E.S. Chang to Sung On to David Un to Peter Koo. Peter Koo discusses potential M&A, merger and acquisition, I'm assuming. Peter Koo created a task force and hired an outside consultant to evaluate how to integrate Branch's feature search product onto Samsung. And for a comment here, it says, after next fund, October 16th, I started to work as a venture team. No history before. And then it says December 2016, Yoon Taek Lim in Branch video call. And then there's a comment here, and it says this was the catalyst meeting that started it all. And it says we discussed building app-first search and integrating it into the intelligence platform. Samsung attendees, Patrick Chang and Yutai Lim. I'm so sorry if I'm saying this wrong. And then it says March 2017. J.K. Shen, Peter Koo meeting with DE for follow-on investment. For this investment, all relevant mobile senior executives have meetings with Samsung next. And then it says J.K. Shen, President, Peter Koo, Im Jong Lee, and DJ Ko, etc. Peter Koo, Im Jong Lee, and DJ Ko all gave their approval on the investment. All discussed the shame that Branch was too expensive to acquire now. Comment 3 says add. Comment 4 says yes, this is a great one. And then April 2017, it says Branch plus Bixby home video call. We discussed how Branch could integrate into Bixby Home as a search provider. It seems that the Finder team was present on this call, and this is where they must have initially learned of our capability. Samsung attendees, Patrick Chang, Harry Yoon, Cindy Lee, redacted, home lead I believe. Then it goes into Na Woon Han, Finder lead, and we've got some redacted people here. And then June 2017, meeting 1 Branch plus Bixby Home planning call. And it says we discussed how Branch could integrate into Bixby Home. Samsung attendees, Patrick Chang, Haijo Kim, and it says meeting 2 Branch Bixby Intelligence Search Team. We presented how Branch could integrate into Bixby Assistant as a search provider. And then it goes into Samsung attendees and some redacted things. And I'm not entirely sure, but I'm assuming this might be Japanese characters here. And then it goes into September 2017. It says Google MDSA carve out specifically for Branch. And there's an item that starts with future proofing is what it says, but the rest of it is redacted. And then in February 19th, so this, okay, and here is where we're finding out the timeline of like MDS, of the agreements, I believe, and how they're getting locked into certain things potentially, or certain agreements, perhaps. Anyway, and then it says, February 19, 2018, mobile vetted branches APIs. March 18, 2018, big data team evaluation of Branch and Samsung architecture over Zoom. Samsung attendees, it's redacted here. And then March 20th, 2018, in Mountain View, it says workshop held at SRA Mountain View. Samsung attendees who've got product planning, Junggai Kong, Yoontak Lim, S Finder, Sungwoo Choi, Jungmin Park, Nawon Khan, Jihai, I am so sorry if that's wrong, Lee, Chris Lee, Tom Kim, I don't think I'm saying this right. I am so sorry, guys. Then it goes into March 22nd, 2018 at SRA Mountain View. Follow up to workshop held at SRA Mountain View. Samsung attendees, Chris Lee, Jonggan Kang. Is it Kong or King? Shit. I am so sorry. Okay. King? Fuck. Yep, okie. Anyway, it says April 10th, 2018, Branch plus Nawoon phone call. Then goes into June 2018, meeting in Redwood City with the Finder team to go through potential requirements for product launch. Samsung attendees, Junggan Kong, Intaik Lim, Nawoon Han, Han Yo Lee, Sunghoon Choi, Yeonjun Cho, Jungmin Park, Ji-hai Lee, Wang Kyo Kim, Wong Hee Park, Jay Lee, Dai Sung Wang, Sanai Park, Seung Yeon Kyung. I wonder if any of person is watching this. Like, bitch, stop butchering their names already. And then it says Finder team defined initial goal as POC, prove that the integration works technically. Success defined as even one user finding the product and using it to search for content. 2. Support for local results only, for example, for restaurants or for points of interest. 3. Results from Branch would be limited to a small set of apps, less than 30. It was determined by the finder team that this would be sufficient for a POC since the objective was not to get maximum scale and engagement at this stage. Later in July, Branch provided a number of deliverables, including a web UI, an API, endpoint for Samsung, and a sampling of deep links across various verticals. It says August 21st, 2018, Suwon, meeting 1, attendees Alexander Austin, Colin Bear, Yun Taik Lim, Jung Kang, Naung Han, Jay Lee, Wengi Park. It says agenda, meeting in Suwon to discuss the status and design of the upcoming integration, workshopped various user interface designs, and agreed in general on the launch specifications. Meeting 2, attendees Alexander Austin, Colin Bear, VP Juan Kim, Untak Lim, Jungkan Kang, Harry Hangyul Yoon. Agenda, introduction for VP Kim to the project, November 2018 SSIC, and then we got attendees Young Sun, Francis Ho, and it has update on the status of discovery and collaboration with Samsung. November 2018 Suwon, attendees Branch CEO Alexander Austin, VP Haesung, VP SH Choi, Untai Klum, Harry Hong Yok Yoon, and it says discuss project updates and introduction to discovery. And then it says December 5th and 6th, 2018, California. Finder team visited Redwood City for in-person testing of Branch Discovery Service. Testing included visiting various locations and entering a variety of search queries, then comparing those results to Google Maps and Yelp. Then, December 7th, 2018, it says workshop at Samsung Research America with Finder team visiting from Korea, meeting agenda, review results of testing, agree on any areas of improvement. Meeting resulted in the Finder team being satisfied with the quality of Branch results and agreeing to launch the service on a Samsung S10. It says January 2019, various conversations between Samsung, Branch, and carriers, T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, to discuss approval of the product for launch. There were more than 10 separate calls and in-person meetings. And then it talks about February 2019, Barcelona. Attendees, Alexander Austin, Colin Bear, VP Juan Kim, Harry Hong Yo Yoon. And there's only one bullet point here available. The other stuff is redacted. It says, meeting at MWC to discuss updates and upcoming launch of service on Samsung S10. Then we have March 2019. Samsung launched S10 with Branch integration. April 2019, Bangalore. Attendees Colin Bear, Ritesh Jain. Says initial meeting to discuss enhancements to the existing Branch integration. Ritesh and the India team felt that there would be substantial potential to increase engagement through the following. 1. Improved opt-in experience. 2. Expanded set of apps. 3. Improved access to Branch results. And then in May 2019, we have the initial call with Michael Candley from AT&T Samsung account team to give background on the solution. Michael subsequently set a call 6th of May between AT&T himself and the Branch team to walk the AT&T through the product and potential future benefits. May 2019, Bangalore. Attendees Colin Bear, Alexander Austin, Ritesh Jain, Deepesh Shah. Met to kick off integration and introduce SVP Deepesh to the product. August 2019, Branch and Samsung started quality assessment. I'm assuming they mean it says QA for new integration with India devices and improved experience. December 2019, it says redacted and Branch UX conflict discussion under S Finder. Attendees J Team, Joshua Jeong, Na Woong, his team, and Harry Hongyo Yoon. And in January 2020, Branch and Samsung launched on first device in India. A live search is powered by Branch. February 2020, Unpacked Event Meeting. Attendees, Colin Bear, Nawang Han. It was suggested that India product would benefit from enhanced shortcuts from Branch. Now Wong suggested that the decision could be made by the team in India and that he would be supportive. March 2020, I can't speak. It says, based on Samsung India's feedback, Branch proposes to develop an improved version of the product that will cater better to navigational app name searches by operating offline and thereby reducing latency with shortcuts. And then it says July 2020, engaged with US NASB team to explore monetization opportunity through a POC in US with enhanced Finder plus Branch experience for users. And then it also says what devices currently are eligible for the Branch features, which ones had it pre-installed, and which ones were updatable with the Branch features. And then it says that it links to a full available list, but obviously we can't click that because that's not for us. So yeah, fucking that is this document here. And let's keep going. Fucking where are we? So that was our questions from HQ between 2016 and 2020. And in that regard, that is just where Samsung is processing the communication among its internal team as it's updated across time. And yeah, I'm sure that somewhere in the details of the case, perhaps either we covered it and I didn't process it yet, or maybe we just didn't get to it and cover it yet. But they were probably able to use this timeline to show the evolution of part of the evolution of where the technology was getting fogged and the contracts and all of that. So I'm assuming something like that happened with that. Anyway, who knows why they used that? That's not for me to know. That's just me speculating. But okay, moving on. Our next exhibit here, it is exhibit number UPX D003. It is labeled the Demonstrative exhibit. Welcome to the new being. It's dated September 26, 2023, and it was uploaded September 28, 2023. So it just shows, I guess they're just showing like how Bing could evolve. It said demonstrative exhibit, so I guess that just means hypothetical. But it's showing like a Bing with like a search and a chat AI powered chat bot up on here. And it says, welcome to the new Bing, your AI powered co-pilot for the web. It says you can ask complex questions, get better answers, get creative inspiration, all that shit. And then it has a input box for you to ask it anything. And there's a label. Okay. And then it shows an example of if you were to ask the AI-powered bots where you should eat dinner in Washington, D.C., and then it answers for you, providing you answers as an example here. And so I think what they're doing is just trying to potentially show where it could go if we allow technology and competition to exist, as I'm assuming what they potentially could have meant to do with this. Who knows? Okay. Um, so next up with our trial exhibits, we have exhibit number UPX D016. And this is labeled Demonstrative Exhibit StatCounter US General Search Engine Shares. September 22, 2022, I can't speak, through September 2023. And then it seems to have been from October 27th, 2023, uploaded October 30th, 2023. And it shows StatCounter US General Search Engine Shares in that time frame here. Until November 2022, it says OpenAI introduces ChatGPT. And it shows different market share here. So it has Google in red, Yahoo in purple, Bing in blue, DuckDuckGo in orange, and other in gray. And so we've got in November 2022, it looks like Google is at almost between like 85 and 90% market share. You know what I'm saying? Um, around November 22, where OpenAI had introduced ChatGPT, and Bing was the next highest at just under 10%. And then Yahoo and DuckDuckGo, I think, are like, if they're like probably less than 5%, if that at all. And others is like, what is that? 1%, 2%? So yeah. Um, and then February 2023, it says Microsoft launches AI powered Bing. And then it says Google announces Bard in February 2023 as well. And so at this point, we see Google surge to almost even closer to 90% market share. And Bing is just a bit closer to 5, but still above it. And Yahoo and DuckDuckGo and everything else seems to be lower as well. So yeah. And then next up with our exhibits, we have exhibit number UPX-D101, and it is labeled Professor Antonio. I don't know how to pronounce this. Is this Rangel? I am so sorry. Presentation, September 12 and 13, 2023. Uploaded September 28, 2023. So yeah, this is a presentation here. Professor Antonio Rangel, I don't know how to say his name, but he's a behavioral economics expert. So yeah, fucking. And before we get here, I just want to remind you guys, go check out, if you're near Pasadena, Texas, looking for a tattoo, consider getting one from Ink by Cast Tattoo. You can get Ink by Cast Tattoo at the V-Hole. Okay, so in here, the presentation here, it says, what are defaults? A default is an option pre-selected by a third party. Default is automatically chosen unless the consumer makes an explicit decision to select another alternative. And then it says assignment. Assignment 1, evaluate the impact of Google search defaults. Assignment 2, compare the impact of search defaults on mobile devices versus personal computers. Assignment 3, evaluate the impact of defaults on consumers' decisions regarding privacy in search. And it says key conclusions. Conclusion 1, search engine defaults generate a sizable and robust bias towards the default. Conclusion 2, search engine default effects have stronger effects on mobile devices than on personal computers. Conclusion 3, power of defaults also affects consumers' privacy decisions in search. And then it shows a sample primary ballot example. I don't understand the point of showing the primary ballot example though, so I'm gonna just keep scrolling. And then it says default strongly influence choice. And it says 401k plans introducing opt-in default increased participation from 37% to 86%. End of life care. 77% of patients chose comfort-oriented directive when default versus 43% when life extension was the default. Organ donation. In Austria, where citizens were registered as organ donors by default, 99% were registered donors. In neighboring Germany, where citizens had to affirmatively register, only 12% were registered donors. Okay. So, yeah, but the ballot though, it's like for voting for like lieutenant governor, attorney general, and judge and shit. So that's why I was like, I don't understand what that ballot had to do with default, but whatever. Um, Maybe because these are the only choices available to us, so they're the default. Is that it? Okay, that's my take. Anyway, oh sorry, I went back to that. But okay, moving on. At the next slide, it says case study. Initially, advertisers entered in maximum daily budgets in an interface with no default setting. And it shows an example. And then it says, continued, Google experimented with a $10 default to increase spending among advertisers. That's true. Like it automatically will put in the number for you, and then you can raise or lower it. And it says Google on the power of defaults. So, in 2007, in a presentation to Hal Variant, it says power of defaults. Default homepage can be a powerful strategic weapon in the search battle. In 2014, relating to Android top-end sites, it says, the power of default apps. Users rarely stray from preloaded apps provided by GMS core, carrier, and or OEM bundle. And if I remember correctly, GMS stands for Google Mobile Services, which is just basically like what they say for all their mobile shit, basically. And the OEM is the operational equipment manufacturer or something like that. Some shit, if I'm not mistaken. And it's the bitches making the damn phone. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And then 2015, Google, in relation to Code Red for Apple update, had said, our brand is in very good standing among iPhone users, but our position is still very vulnerable if defaults were to change. In 2016, in relation to the global partnership search strategy, we have a quote, there's tremendous power in the default OS access points, but it's pay to play. There is no substitute for the default access points. We should continue to explore broad default access across all OS, including newer and emerging access points. In 2017, we got an email from David Tarr, Google technical writer, where we got a quote that says, I think default options presented in anything from finance to gaming are very powerful and will probably end up being what most people choose out of lack of knowledge about customization or convenience. And then it says Google pays billions for search defaults. The amount is redacted, but what's not redacted is it says Apple worldwide 2020, Android United States only 2020, and Mozilla Firefox worldwide 2021. And then next we have relating to the power of defaults in a 2019 Google Podcast presentation that is partly redacted over here. It says, secondly, if we take another view, Apple Podcasts has amassed a majority market share on iPhones. There are other podcasting apps, what we believe offer an equivalent or better user experience, but Apple Podcasts still has a redacted share over all other apps combined. This goes to show the power of the default. There are many examples of other apps where a pre-installed app in premium placement is the primary driver of user. For example, Google Photos. We also know the reverse is true. Google Maps illustrates how even a superior product with great brand recognition can struggle to gain share. We also see from consumer surveys that podcasting apps are incredibly sticky. And so yeah, it's talking about Google search engine defaults, and it shows Apple iPhone, Android phone, and Firefox browser as examples here. And then it says conclusion number 1. Search engine defaults generate a sizable and robust bias toward the default. Most search engine choice is implicitly driven by habit. Behavioral biases and choice friction further strengthen Google's defaults. And in relation to habit and implicit search engine choice, from 2016, we've got in relation to thoughts on Google versus Microsoft from how variant, I believe. Potentially. It just says how variant in a quote here. It says, recommendation. Get users addicted to our interface and tools, particularly those where we have intellectual property protection. Then, from Google 2015, as it relates to iOS app switching, it says, listing habit regular usage as the #1 reason users choose Chrome, the Google search application, and Safari. And then we have attributed to Google 2016 Search and Assist presentation. It's mostly halfway redacted, but it says changing behavior is hard. Displacing defaults is even harder. Then 2022, attributed to Google Marketing Plan, it says the power of habit drives many users to stick with Apple, Spotlight, and Safari. And then I think this is, what the fuck do they call it? Like a Neva or some shit like that? I think this is the Neva logo. I could be wrong. And Google, maybe I'm wrong. But fucking, it says fucking March 23, 2022, former Google SVP and Neva CEO is that Sridhar? I am so sorry, I don't know how to say the name. Sridhar Ramaswamy. It says, people are creatures of habit, and if you interject yourself into a habit, good things will happen. Most people settle on, one mechanism to do things. And so, what is the default within that mechanism is incredibly powerful for establishing market share. And so, yeah. And then in a 2005 Google letter to Microsoft relating to how the default is changed, it says, the problems with the default setting are further compounded by how changes to the default are handled. As you know, most end users do not change defaults, and even if you might try to make a change from the drop-down menu in IE7, will be surprised to learn that their choice will revert to the original default the next time they start IE7. Making changes in the drop-down menu temporary rather than permanent differs from normal convention and is especially likely to mislead and confuse end users. Undoubtedly, of the tiny fraction of end users who try to change the default, many will. Oh, wait. Oh, okay, no, that's good. My bad, I got distracted. I thought, yeah, I got my phone up here and I'm getting notifications. But you know what? Nothing to see here. Okay, sorry. It says, undoubtedly, of the tiny fraction of end users who try to change the default, many will become frustrated and simply leave the default as originally set, in all likelihood, to MSN search in light of Microsoft's previous setting of the default. And so then it talks about cognitive effort and explicit search engine choice. It says to change the search engine default, users must be aware there is a default search engine, discover alternatives, learn the steps necessary to change or evade the default, implement the steps. Okay. And then it talks about how choice friction matters. And it shows actionability and making the best choice the easiest. So, on one side, it shows reducing friction. It says seemingly small friction points in user experiences can have a dramatically disproportionate effect on whether people drop or stick. Reducing friction can also create the light and immediate value. And then it shows status quo bias. And it shows like people protesting where it says, change, schmange, keep things precisely as they are, I'm good, thanks. And it says, inertia is the path of least resistance. People tend to stick with the status quo as it takes more effort to make changes. Given this, set the default option wisely. Oh man, I think we should marinate on the default status quo concept as it relates to social issues too, but I gotta do more processing on that. Okay. And then it says, choice friction matters continued. in relation to difficult process, it says if you start by thinking that thinking is hard, that people have lots of things to do, and that each barrier in terms of time, attention, and demand for thinking is 10 times what you think it is, this will be a good start. For example, starting a signing process by asking people what do you want to advertise might create higher friction than one would imagine. If this is the case, you want to think about each step, as small as it might be, and see if there is a way to eliminate it, delay it, simplify it, default it. Okay. And this next slide is redacted basically, so we're going to skip it. And then it says Google stopped Samsung, and then it's redacted, and then it says 2018. That's interesting. And then most of this is redacted, but the part of the email we have that's not redacted here um, is to Andrew Hung, Steve Lee, and some other redacted people from Helen Sal. And it says subject, notice of RSA section 2.4 violation, notice number 3. So the RSA is their revenue share agreement. Oh, two of the people CC'd are from Google. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, all right. And so, we're talking about their revenue share agreement. Interesting. And it says, Dear Andrew and Steve, on February 10, 2018, we discovered that Samsung used a client ID of which Google pays Samsung shared net ad revenue on a Samsung device not qualified for revenue share in violation of Section 2.4 of the Google Mobile Revenue Share Agreement, RSA, dated July 1st, 2017. And then it says the details of the device model are below, and the rest is redacted. Ooh, interesting. So you can see where they, try and lock them into the contracts here. And then next up, it shows the Android logo, and it says steps to change the Android search widget. And it shows a list here relating to replacing the Google search widget on Android 12, but it's like super faded. So it says launch the Play Store app, search for Bing in search bar, tap on install to download application, tap home button to exit Play Store app, long touch home button to return to home screen, tap widget button, choose Bing in list of widgets, A. Long press Bing widget style, B. Tap add, long press Google widget, tap remove. Okay. So I guess those are the steps you have to do to replace the Google widget. And then it looks like it just repeated that. Oh, it looks like it's showing this. Oh, okay. So it listed those steps. And then the steps that listed, I think it's showing here. It looks like it's showing those steps on the screenshot on the right. But first it shows them Googling behavioral economics, and it says with a definition here, behavioral economics, it shows the definition and partly says learn how to influence consumer behavior through a blend of theory and practical tactics. And then the instructions that I had just read, where it was faded, now they're actually readable, and it's showing like in order those steps. So, oops. Yeah, this is way easier to read. Okay. I'm just scrolling through because I kind of already read it already. Alrighty. And then next up, it shows another definition of behavioral economics here. And it says Behavioral economics studies the effects of psychological, cognitive, emotional, cultural, and social factors in the decisions of individuals or institutions. And then it goes into market evidence related to mobile. And it says mobile device examples of sizable default effects. And it says Apple Maps default switch, US tablet comparison between Amazon Fire, and it shows Yandex Russian choice screen. But this next part is redacted, so who knows. And then it says mobile iOS 2012 Apple Maps default switch. It says Apple Maps default became the predominant iPhone Maps application despite quality problems. Google Maps illustrates how even a superior product with great brand recognition can struggle to gain market share against default option. Google uses the Apple Maps episode to model expected revenue loss on iPhones and iPads in the event Apple were to switch to Safari Search default. This next slide shows mobile iOS Google Code Red projections, and it's redacted. And then mobile US tablet comparison. You know what I need to do? Make sure I do a stream outlining the difference and outlining what code red and yellow are, because I'm interested in that. Like, just do what I'm gonna do a whole stream on code red and code yellow, man. Anyway, so mobile US tablet comparison, but it's redacted, but it's apparently comparing Amazon and Fire and to the I can't speak. The Amazon Fire with the default browser being Bing to the Apple iPad with the default Safari browser being Google. Um, and then it shows 2017 Russia choice screen Android mobile phones, but it's redacted, so fucking skipping that. Uh, Another slide, same title, also redacted. And then it says behavioral economics of defaults. Under status quo bias attributed to Google, it says defaults. People tend to stick with the status quo as it takes more effort to make changes. Given this, set the default option wisely. When the decision is unclear, people go with the default. In relation to loss aversion attributed to Google, it says, when making decisions big and small, people tend to overwhelmingly pick the default option. Deviating from the default induces loss aversion. And so then it talks about app stores and Google documents. And part of this is redacted, but it says redacted search is antithetical to how people think about apps. People don't necessarily want to go back and open a separate thing to search. And then it says, led by famed economists, redacted, our team of behavior experts worked to transform Google's product and marketing strategy by applying the principles of behavioral economics. And then it says App Store's third-party testimony. And we've got a quote from Mitchell Baker, CEO of Mozilla here. And it says, merely having an app in the App Store is a very difficult way to compete with the preloaded defaults because each person who gets that phone has to make a conscious decision to go through a lot of work to get to your product. And then it shows the mobile Android European choice screen. But it shows the differences in the UK, France, Germany, Switzerland, and Spain for Google's pre-choice screen Android market share and Google's choice screen selection share between September and December 2021, as well as the difference. However, what that result is all redacted. You know what I'm saying? So, um, and then it talks about European choice screen and brand recognition relating to a Google October 2019 email regarding choice screen in search forecasts. So part of it is redacted, but it says the reason the financial impact is not shifting based on the placement of Google in the choice screen is because the assumptions we used in the model are based on brand recognition, using queries as a proxy. Considering this is what the assumption is meant to capture, the position wouldn't matter as much as the recognition would. There could be benefits to having it show up first thing a user sees, or possibly last. So it's easier to click from where your thumb normally is. But we've given this a bit of thought, and given the unknowns, the current assumption is likely unchanged by position. Separately for RU, there is a choice screen there. However, we think this would not be a good comparable because Yandex has a much higher presence in RU than non-Google search engines have in the EEA. Ultimately, it's a similar choice screen process, but in an extremely different competitive landscape that would not be close to EEA. And then we go into conclusion number 2 here. It says search engine defaults have stronger effects on mobile devices than on personal computers. So it shows how Google agrees defaults are more powerful in mobile. 2 of the quotes here are redacted as it relates to Google 2016 and their search finance team, and 2021 and what would Apple do. But 2 of them that are not redacted, so both attributed to Google. In 2016, as it relates to Apple scenarios, it says mobile defaults. Defaults have more prominence in mobile due to screen size and user interface. In 2018, as it relates to iOS search strategy, it says people are much less likely to change default search engine on mobile. Then, in regards to third-party testimony, mobile versus PCs, it has a quote here from Rick Vanderkooy. I don't know if I'm saying that right, corporate VP of Microsoft. It says, on a mobile platform more than anywhere else, even more than on the PC, default is the only thing that matters. And then it says market evidence, personal computers. It says personal computer examples of sizable default effects. And it lists the Firefox browser default switch as well as the Windows PC search shares. And then it says PC's 2014-2017 Firefox default switches. And it shows a graph relating to search engine shares in the Firefox browser and personal computers in the US, but that's redacted. And then also redacted, it shows default effects across operating systems. And it seems to be comparing Apple's Mac computers to Windows PC computers, relation to Bing, but the information's redacted, but it says roughly 7-fold default effect. And then in regards to conclusion number 3, it says defaults bias consumers' privacy decisions in search. Google's default privacy settings present significant choice friction for users who may prefer less data collection. And it talks about privacy-focused search engines and defaults. A lot of this is, well, part of this is redacted, but it says July 2020 email from Brave Browser VP Jan Piotrowski. Sorry, I don't think I said that right. Said to Yahoo Search VP Nate Weinstein. Is it Weinstein or Weinstein? I don't know. And then it says, as for DDG, it's currently default in 4 geos: Germany, Ireland, Australia, and New Zealand. Although we don't track or identify our users, we have recently started anonymously sampling browsers so that we have some limited aggregated data to analyze. The data is very clear. Default is sticky and very powerful. From these anonymous data sets, we see that the default DDG in these geos remain default on at least redacted of machines, and some of those geos significantly higher. This data is corroborated by what we're seeing with Quant, which we have set as default in France and is seeing similarly high usage. We'd love to go to market with a strong message of partnership between Yahoo and OneSearch and Brave with Yahoo One Search as default and see what we can do. And then it shows Apple app tracking prompts. And it says in April 2021, Apple introduced choice screen for data tracking by applicants. It says don't allow selected by more than 80% after 1 year. Removal of tracking default cost Facebook roughly $10 billion. Man, I have to do a whole nother live stream on that because that's also like something to think about. You know what? Facebook. iOS tracking. Yeah, okay. So then it says choice friction and Google privacy settings. And it talks about control. It says current perception. I have no choice if I want to use the product. Controls are purposefully hidden. User goals. Increase awareness and accessibility of existing data controls. Increase feelings of control and agency, especially in the moment. Controls are easily accessible and offered at the right moments of need. And then it talks about choice friction in Google privacy settings and private searching on Google, but it's redacted, so whatever. And then it reiterates our key conclusions here for this last slide. And our key conclusions from this evidence from this presentation here from Professor Antonio. Is this Rangel or Rangel? I'm so sorry, I don't know how to say your name. From Antonio Rangel. Is conclusion number 1, search engine defaults generate a sizable and robust bias toward the default. Conclusion 2, search engine default effects have stronger effects on mobile devices than on personal computers. And conclusion number 3, power defaults also affects consumers' privacy decisions in search. So yeah, so fucking now we're going to be wrapping up what we are covering today. So today we only got through, what is this, 3? Oh no, 4. Wait. Oh, 5. Hold up. Oh, okay, I did a little bit more than I thought I did. That's nice. Okay, great. So today we got through 5 things. We started off with the Google presentation regarding the Amazon app usage and impact. Oh wait, no, we didn't do that today. I lied. No, hold up. We did that last time. Today, we started off with the chat between Patrick Chang of Samsung and Antonio Key of Samsung. And in that chat, that is where we see where they talk about the Department of Justice and Google lawsuit case and whether or not they thought that Google would be more or less strict in their interpretation of the contracts, but they had said in there that they didn't think that Google was taking the lawsuits against them very seriously, basically. And then after that, we looked at the Samsung document regarding questions from HQ. So that seems to be like a lot of meeting agenda related type shit. So I haven't fully processed what's in all of that really. But basically, I think what it kind of can show is how the issues that they were having with Google as it relates to the contracts that they were locked into were impacting their productivity in terms of what they were producing with their work and what their meeting note deliverables were able to demonstrate. So I'm assuming there's either some ways that we haven't gone over and covered that was worked into the trial, or I haven't processed it yet if we did cover it. But yeah, that's basically roughly in a nutshell what that was. And then after that, we looked at what they are labeled as demonstrative exhibit. So by that, I don't know if they mean like hypothetical, like just to demonstrate, like a demo. But you know what I'm saying? Who knows what the court's intention is with that, but it shows a demonstration of what Bing could be with like an AI chat, and it also showed a demonstrative exhibit relation to um, general search engine shares. So yeah, I feel like those numbers and the stats though seem to be relatively realistic from what I know of the data though. So I don't know. And then we just finished up with the presentation from Professor Antonio Rangel. I am so sorry, I think I'm saying that wrong. And the key takeaways from this presentation are related to the power of defaults and to keep in mind basically like all you really need to know is if you can get something set as the default, it's typically very hard to change that shit. And so that's relevant in this court case because they seem to be able to prove how Google was able to get themselves set to be the default and under these different contracts as we've been discussing and throughout the case as the evidence has come out. So yeah, so we only got through 5 things today, but whatever. Tomorrow I'm going to try and see how much shit I can get through. Who knows? We'll just do it. We'll just see how much we can get through. Well, I don't know how much I'll get through, but it's been a journey. So far, with this lawsuit, in relation to the monopoly case, we have covered the trial exhibits. Well, we are starting to cover the trial exhibits, but before we started covering these trial exhibits, we have previously covered we went through the appellate brief, what's available so far, the pre-trial submissions, and we went through all of the trial materials. And I went through what I could of the discovery and case management documents as well. And the only thing left that I want to cover from all of that, when I can, besides finishing up the trial exhibits, is doing the remedies situation. As you know, I need to address, there's a remedy document I haven't covered yet, but I'm waiting on some more shit to come out on the remedy situation. Um, and I'm also assuming some stuff's gonna happen with like some type of appeal thing. I don't know, maybe. So I'm waiting on some other shit to happen. I'll also be covering that too. But after I wrap up what we can cover here, particularly as it relates to these trial exhibits, then I will move into the other case. So what we've been focused on in this live stream is the search monopoly in Judge Mehta's, why am I finger spelling J? Mehta, Mehta's court. Um, so yeah, so that's the search monopoly. That case originally filed 2020. And then there's another monopoly case against Google that we're also going to be covering next in Judge Brinkema's court. Brinkama, I think. I don't know. And I think that was filed 2023 originally, the initial complaint there. So yeah, we'll be getting into all of that upcoming next, and I'm gonna try and bang out these trial exhibits as fast as I can because some shit is supposed to go down with that other monopoly case soon, and I would like to cover that as close as I can as to when it's happening because I just for me, I feel like it's important to be on top of this situation now as it's covering. As it's happening. I'm thinking about why I'm covering it. As it's happening because of how it's going to impact or how it could impact all people and how we relate to and access search engines and find things online, as well as every single person in business and everybody in marketing. Like, this could be fucking all our shit up. And if it does do that, I don't think it's gonna happen overnight, like immediately. Or maybe some shit could that I don't understand here. But I think these changes will that of the quote unquote any dismantling that happens are gonna result in slow changes for the end user. I think some immediate impacts could happen for Google, like maybe they could be forced to sell off something, for example. But I still think what we're going to experience is going to be a slow change, if that. But I still think major shit could be changing. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong though, because at the same time, when the Facebook iOS update happened, that they were talking about in the presentation, that cost Facebook billions of dollars, that happened basically overnight, it feels like, in a nutshell. I'll have to do a whole different live stream on that though. But yeah, so thank you for joining me today. Hopefully, maybe I'll see you tomorrow for my next live stream. We'll keep going through these fucking trial exhibits, keep doing this, bitch. So yeah, thank you for joining me. I hope you have a good night. Take care of yourself. And yeah, bye. Thanks for watching. Join the loyalty program at noladeafchild.com/loyalty and check in during live streams to get points for rewards.